Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lock Shop. Dusty with you. Hustle be by shortly. I'm actually hopping on Winnipeg Sports Talk today with Huss around 1:30 Edmonton time to talk about the Edmonton Oilers getting past the Vancouver Canucks. Interesting text from the Lock Shop boys, Pete Greggy and Jake over from Coolbet, saying we should put together a little EST Oilers parlay for the upcoming series. So we can look at some player point totals, some player goal totals, and kind of put together an EST series parlay, which I got a lot of time for. I really like that. So if you have any thoughts on what we could throw in to a series parlay, let's do it. Lay them out in the nasty chat. Fire us a text, 780-218-9999. Are we looking at Bouchard over 1.5 goals? Cash that bad boy in that last series. I feel like we could probably put that in there as well. Let me make a quick note. Bouchard over 1.5 goals. What are we looking at for points from McDavid and Draisaitl? We could get into the series finish as well. So, look, we can do whatever we want on a EST parlay. So hit us up in the nasty chat. If you're watching on YouTube, hammer that thumbs up, sub to the channel as well. We love it. And, of course, you can text us if you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999. Where is Huss? Let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Andrew Hustler Paterson. Like I said, going to be on WST with him a little bit later on today. Huss, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, listen, having no skin in the game, it was fun just to sit back and watch the stress of everybody else last night. How was that last 5 minutes for you and all of your listeners, Dustin?
Well, yeah, what they say, clench and clinch. That's basically what happened. You clenched it, then you clinched it. I was watching it with 9-year-old Marshall Bokeith Nielson, and he was up way past his school night bedtime. I mean, this kid's usually in bed at like 8 o'clock. Third period's not starting until after 9. It was funny because after 40 minutes, they're up, and he's such a good kid. I shouldn't even have done this to him, but they're up after 2 periods, and I said, okay, bud, let's go to bed. And he's like, all right. So he kind of sits up, starts to get ready to walk to his room, and I was like, hey. I said, do you want to watch the third? He's like, yes. I was like, okay, sit back down. We'll watch the third. So then the Canucks go up 3-1. They're pressing. Marshall's laying there with me. He goes, if they score another one, I'm going to bed. I said, you can't leave if they're hanging on by 1. You're going to miss the rush at the end of the game. So he's with me. We were standing for like the last 90 seconds of the game. And then they won. He celebrated like crazy. And then he I love seeing like young us, like knowing what he's going to become in the future. He sits down and he's just like, whew. Like he just was trying to like totally reset after that. And then he looks at me and he goes, Daddy, that was the longest 4 minutes of my life. I was just like, yeah, you're right, man. It was. But I think he was probably speaking for a lot of Oilers fans because once they got the first one, you're like, uh-oh. We already seen them piss away a 3-goal lead in this series. Then they get the second one, and I think everybody really started to panic. But after they called the timeout, they didn't give up another shot on goal, even though Vancouver was kind of still pushing. So what a finish.
It was, listen, it was probably a little more stressful than everyone would have liked. And, I mean, it was close. Like, I don't know if you saw that. I think JT Miller had that one shot that hit Zadorov's skate.
Might have gone in.
It would have been like if that game had actually gone to overtime, that would have been like I heard Elliot Friedman talking about it. They're sitting there like talking about, they got to fill 4 minutes. And then all of a sudden, get your packages ready. OT scores, you got to be prepared.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been on that side of things as well. It was, listen, credit to the Oilers. I thought they played a great game for the majority of it. And I do think Vancouver had a little bit of I don't want to say a lull because I think they had the energy. That loss of Brock Besser was big yesterday.
It was a killer.
I mean, he was really missed. It was kind of shades of Colorado in Game 4 after they lost Nichushkin, although for very, very different reasons. But listen, they got it done. And I will say this: I nailed this series at the beginning on the Lock Shop. There's a lot of people who thought this was going to be easy for the Oilers. I did think they would win, but they were going to have to earn it. And 3-2 in Game 7, they absolutely did. And now we get Edmonton and Dallas, Florida Rangers. Pretty good Final Four, I think, overall. People that want a Canadian team, they've got one in them. And listen, I think the other three teams, the other three teams all won their divisions. They were the best teams in the respective squads this year. So pretty darn good. Have you looked at the futures, like the cup odds right now?
I did not look at the cup odds. I dove into the series numbers earlier on the show this morning, but I did not look at the full-blown futures.
Before you look at it, what do you think? It's pretty interesting, I have to say. Three pretty close teams, and then one. Who do you think the favorite is, and at what number?
Geez, man, I couldn't even tell you who I think the favorite is. Florida. Okay.
Florida is plus 230.
Okay.
To win the cup,
and then Dallas.
And then Dallas plus 240.
Okay.
Then Edmonton plus 250. And then the Rangers are plus 350.
Why are this just continues with the New York Rangers? Like I don't understand. Like to me, coin flip all four of them. Like why are you getting the Rangers at plus 350 when the Panthers are they're the favorite, but they're not much of a favorite ahead of Dallas and Edmonton. So that doesn't make a lot of sense for me. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Do we all agree that the Rangers have the best goalie in Shesterkin?
Yeah, I would think so far in the playoffs. Yes, Bobrovsky can obviously have those stand on his head games, but you can be vulnerable at times. We know the Oilers. We'll see what happens with Skinner. Ottinger's been pretty good so far, but I would say yes, Shesterkin has been the best. I mean, watching that series against Carolina, he was pretty damn good. So,
I think he was great. That's why I just can't wrap my head around it. And listen, with all due respect to Stuart Skinner, I mean, that's the one thing the Oilers don't have that the other three teams do have. A solid established number one. I mean, for crying out loud, they went with Cal Pickard for two of the games in this series. So it just means that those top players on the Oilers need to step. We never really had that massive McDavid game in this series either.
Well, I said that to me was he had 3 assists in game 6, but I thought them winning in game 7 on the road in Vancouver, I think most of us would have said, well, that script is Connor McDavid putting the team on his back and carrying them. He had 1 shot on goal and didn't have a point. And he wasn't bad. I mean, he was still buzzing around a little bit. But the fact that they won that game with him being kind of ordinary Connor McDavid Huss, I think says a lot about maybe the rest of the guys that they've got on board right now. So,
well, I mean, listen, it was I was laughing about Connor Brown. I mean, we all know the season that he's had.
The breakaway shorthanded, like, oh my God.
I mean, that would have been so massive. They didn't get it. It's tied after 1 in a period that the Oilers probably should have been up 2 or 3. And then he goes to the box later on. I'm like, man, this guy is doing everything he can to end up wearing the horns tomorrow and forever in Edmonton on that. But it was funny. The fourth lines on both sides actually came up big last night. It was more of a soft. I mean, both teams were really focusing on not giving a lot of time and space to the other squads, and that meant a little tougher run for the top players.
You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Hit us up over on YouTube in the Nasty Chat. VR Montenegro says, I legitimately stood the entire damn game. Rob C says, Dusty, I think we were all Marshall last night. And Mitchie R says, I couldn't look the last few minutes, hiding my head under a blanket like a horror movie was on. So we had one guy text in today during confessions. He's like, boys, I couldn't watch the last 4 minutes. I went and had a shower. He goes, I was too fired up. I went and showered and then got out of the shower and see if they hung on. I was like, man, people are absolutely nuts. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. I'm just looking here. We see the Stanley Cup winning odds, plus 230, plus 240, plus 250, plus 350, Florida, Dallas, Edmonton, New York, in that order as Huss laid out. You seeing these Conn Smythe odds here, Huss?
I have not.
Right next to the Stanley Cup winning odds on the NHL season bets page. Let me lay this out. Don't look. Did you look?
No.
Okay. Who would you say is the Conn Smythe favorite right now?
Well, if it was up to me, the guy, and again, all of this is going to change depending on who wins, right?
Yeah.
But the guy that I would vote for right now, that I think if his team wins this next series, and gets to the Cup final and they win, I think he's almost a lock, is Miro Heiskanen on Dallas.
Heiskanen is 7th in the odds right now. His teammate, Jake Ottinger, plus 475 right now, the shortest odds to win the Conn Smythe.
Well, Ottinger's been pretty good, but I mean, anyone that's been paying attention to Heiskanen, he's been playing 27 minutes a night. He's been leading them in scoring. He is.
I do think you make a good point. If Dallas wins if Dallas wins the Cup, I think Heiskanen's getting that Conn Smythe. I mean, I would way rather bet Heiskanen at 10-1 than Ottinger plus 475.
For sure. And listen, we'll see what happens in this series. Like, if Ottinger shuts out Edmonton a couple times or like has a nuclear performance, then okay, that can change. But right now, Heiskanen should be a shorter number than Ottinger, if you ask me, based on what we've seen so far. What about Shesterkin? Shesterkin's got to be up there.
Shesterkin and McDavid are both 5-1, just shy of Ottinger. Then you get to Barkov at plus 650. Draisaitl's at plus 850. I mean, from an Oilers perspective, I'd rather put the plus 850 on Leon Draisaitl right now than the 5-1 on Connor McDavid. Draisaitl's just been better so far in the playoffs. So, and then you get Tkachuk, Heiskanen, and Wyatt Johnston all at 10-1, and then it drops off down to Bobrovsky, Panarin, and some others. So
Wyatt Johnston's had some big games as well. The thing about Heiskanen is that, you know, people might not notice him night after night, but once you, like, if Dallas wins this series and they're playing in the Cup final, all the narratives are going to change to be like, oh my God, this guy is doing everything for them.
He's a top 5 D-man in the league now and all that stuff. Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't think Dallas is, listen, you're going to have your goaltender play well to win, obviously, but it's not like the only way Dallas can win this series is if Jake Ottinger stands on his head. In fact, I think that Ottinger, I mean, unless Stuart Skinner steps up and raises his level 2 or 3 times from what we've seen so far in the playoffs, I mean, I think he can be just average Ottinger and probably have a pretty good chance to win, at which point it probably doesn't really deal into the bit. The McDavid, I'll say this about Connor. It just shows the respect that he's got amongst people and
still
what they
sitting there
assume
at
that he would
5-1
be to do. Because, I mean, I think you would agree that right now, through 2 rounds, I mean, he had a couple of ridiculous games in the LA series, but other than that, I mean, this was a quieter series.
Yeah,
and Vancouver deserves a lot of credit for the way they played against him and handled him.
JT Miller was very good in those head-to-head matchups, as you would have saw, following along on that series. He had 9 points in the 7 games, but you're more expecting Connor to be at the 12, 13 points in the 7-game scenario. You know what's interesting? Somebody asked over on the YouTube feed in the Nasty Chat, and of course, if you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart, you can text us at 780-218-9999 to say, hey, where's Bouchard? He's 30-1 right now. First defenseman in NHL history to get 20 points through the first 2 games. I still would find it very hard to believe that Bouchard could bring home the Conn Smythe when he also has Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid on his team. However, in this series against Vancouver, we were talking about this morning, who was the MVP in this series for the Oilers? And it was, my vote went to Bouchard. Zach to come this morning and said Draisaitl. But Bouchard, I mean, he had 11 points in the 7 games. He had 2 game-winning goals. I mean, he was excellent. Outplayed Quinn Hughes. He was excellent in that series. Yeah. So at 30-1, maybe a little sprinkle, but Draisaitl or McDavid will end up winning that thing if they get. But he's been that good so far, and very interested to see how he holds up against a Dallas team that's just insanely deep. I mean, that forward group is outstanding, and we'll see what the injury status is of Roope Hintz here as we work our way towards puck drop on Thursday.
Yeah, for the Conn Smythe, I mean, I think you really have to focus in on who you think's going to win, obviously, because in almost every case, barring a couple of outliers, the Conn Smythe Trophy winner's coming from the team that's going to win it. It is interesting that Florida, even though they're the Cup favorite, slightly has a bunch more mixed group. I mean, you got Barkov at plus 650, Tkachuk at 10-1, Bob at 15-1, Verhaeghe at 25-1. If you like the Rangers, I think Shesterkin's got to be the guy. Although Chris Kreider is sitting there at 60 to 1. And that's a guy that has the knack for big goals at big times. You know, he had that natural.
Yeah, he could have a great
turnaround
Stanley
game
Cup final, right? If they get there and like score 6-7 goals and win it. Like, that's a good point.
If you love the Rangers, I mean, I think Shesterkin's the play, but to throw a little sprinkle down on Panarin at 25 and Kreider at 60 would not be the worst bet. But as I said, if you like Dallas, and I know there's probably a lot of people listening to this right now that don't want to hear about that, but if you do like Dallas, to me, Heiskanen clearly above, and I'm actually quite surprised that he isn't actually swapped with Jake Ottinger.
Yeah,
from where they are, because as I say, that like they didn't beat Colorado because Jake Ottinger was the best player in the series. He wasn't. I mean, Heiskanen from day one of the playoffs has just been an absolute horse for them. And like, he isn't playing Alex Pietrangelo 30 minutes where there's a lot of stationary time. He's running around. I mean, that guy is on the go nonstop. I've been so impressed with him. So I think I might throw a little down on him.
As we mentioned right off the top here today, Jake texted us from Coolbet and said, hey, let's put together a little EST series parlay. And if you have any suggestions, I'll lock something in here at the end of the lock shop today. But if you have any suggestions, if you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart, you can hit us up at 780-218-9999. All I know is that Bouchard over 1.5 goals in this series, I'm definitely going to have in there. What else would you like to see us add? What would the number be on Connor McDavid? You put him at 9.5. Huss, are you expecting, and we can get, let's continue with the hockey talk. I do want to recap a bunch of stuff from the weekend as well, but we're in a groove here with the National Hockey League right now. Are you expecting a high-scoring series between Dallas and Edmonton, like we saw a bit with Dallas? And like, I think it's more Dallas, Colorado than it is Vancouver, Edmonton. This series ends up being, right? Like,
yeah, I do, because I think that the Oilers will find a way to get a few, and I think Dallas is just relentless. I mean, Edmonton's going to need to be ready, and they're going to frankly need to step up their defensive game in a big way if they want to win this series, because I mean, they don't have the goaltending that the other team does. They certainly don't have the team defense, historically, that a team like Dallas does. DeBoer has them playing in in a structure that brings out the best in the offense of their team, but they really don't give you a lot of room and time, space in their own end. And I mean, what they were able to do to the likes of McKinnon, I know they lost Nichushkin, but even in the last couple games, like McKinnon was really frustrated. McKinnon was really frustrated. I have to think that we're going to see some McDavid brilliance. I mean, he's going to be good for a game or two. Like, I don't think this is going to be a short series, but I get why Dallas is the favorite. And I also think that if Edmonton wants to win, they as a team, to be honest, but also their top players are going to have to get to another level, because I think that if you watch those two series, Dallas and Colorado was played at an efficiency level, if you will, that was kind of beyond what we saw from Vancouver Edmonton. Although the Vancouver Edmonton series was it was on and off. There were like all the games were different. You know what I mean?
It was a weird series. I said after game 4, heading into game 5, I had no read on it. I had no read on the way that series was going to go. The Edmonton Oilers in game 6 and 7 did shut down the Vancouver Canucks for sure. Now, one of the things that Craig Button said this morning on the Nielsen show, he kind of laid it out. He goes, now the Oilers are facing a really good offensive team. Like, nothing against the Kings, nothing against the Canucks. The Dallas Stars can push the pace offensively a little bit. The one area that kind of jumps off the page for me a little bit, and we'll see how this plays out in the series. But the Oilers' power play against Vancouver did struggle a bit down the stretch. Obviously had the game-winning goal last night, but the Dallas Stars' penalty kill in the playoffs so far is less than 70%. They're at 69% right now. And I'm telling you, if the Dallas Stars go in and out of a series with the Oilers and their penalty kill is less than 70%, they're not winning that series. Like, their penalty kill is going to have to be better, I guess is what I'm saying, because the Oilers' power play is going to get theirs if that penalty kill. Now it all comes down to, I guess, the way the games are officiated and if there are a lot of power plays. but a sub 70 penalty kill. The Oilers right now are rolling the best penalty kill in the entire league at 91.4%. So I'm assuming Dallas's penalty kill is better than the numbers would lead us to believe right now, Huss?
They got burned a couple times by Colorado, and Colorado, when they're going, I mean that first comeback, they were down 3-0, and bang, they got 2 power play goals in about 45 seconds, if I recall correctly, and they were right back in the game. They had a couple of games where they handled the Avalanche power play pretty well, but I mean, Colorado was operating at a really high level. I'm trying to think about the Vegas. I don't really recall, to be honest, what the power play situation was in that Vegas series.
I can't remember
whether that was just, it was kind of normal, and then they got caved in against Colorado. But Colorado and Edmonton, I think if you're comparing talent, like we kind of had this conversation before, you're putting out a 5-man unit to try to score a 5-on-4. I mean, those are the 2 best teams in the league that can just kind of load up that top group. And I think the results sort of speak for themselves. But you are right. The special teams is going to be, it always is a huge, huge story in the playoffs. Oh, I guess Dallas certainly would have won the special teams battle in the first round, because we all remember that graphic that came out after the first series, and the top 8 teams in special teams all moved on. Yeah. And the teams that didn't do it on the other side. What do you think about this series number? I have to admit, I think they're right around where it should be.
Yeah, when I saw it this morning, it didn't surprise me where it was. I'm looking at the player props right now. Is it at -1? Okay, so it's still at -133. It moved a little bit. It was at -133 earlier today, I think. Oh no, that might have been, I was looking at the game line. This might have stayed the same where it's been. So at Dallas Stars -133, Edmonton Oilers +110. I think
really? I got -137.
Oh.
And Oilers +112.
That must have just moved, because I had the page up and I was going from player props over to the series number. No, I still have +110. That's weird.
Let me just refresh.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I'm looking at +110 right now.
Okay. Moved. I just refreshed, and now it goes to a -133, -110.
I was a little surprised, and it might have just been because of last night, the Oilers just won. Everybody's got a hot take, like, oh, they got by Vancouver, but look how much they panicked at the end. Stars and 5. I don't see stars in 5 in this series. It's kind of like you, Huss, with that Vancouver-Edmonton series, where a lot of people were like, 29 out of 30 people at Sportsnet were like Oilers, and everybody, myself included, was Oilers in 6. There was a lot of Oilers in 5, and you were like, no, I think this is going to be a little bit more difficult series than that. That's kind of where I'm at on this series, on the other side of it, between the Stars and Oilers. But I do think they have the number. I do think they have the number right. And if people have faith in the Edmonton Oilers right now, getting them a +110 to win this series is a real nice number to get it at right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, this is not only is it a great series right now between the top team in the West and the team with the most star power in the West, but there's like some history with these teams too. Like back in the playoffs,
you got to go back a little ways.
And, double OT. Todd
Marchant, Game 7. We went through it yesterday when we were setting up the Game 7 history of the Edmonton Oilers. They're now 8-4 in Game 7s, but that was a big one. That was one of Bob Cole's best calls ever. I mean, Marchant goes, it was just amazing. So, and it's funny because we had Button on today, and Button was with Dallas during those series, and he said that Ken Hitchcock said, he would always say that those series against the Oilers were the ones that kind of toughened them up to get to where they eventually needed to be. So very interested, because these two franchises are in different spots than those two franchises were, right? Like Dallas was loaded. The Oilers were like this spunky underdog at the time. That Todd Marchant goal and that upset was huge. This one here, you've got two teams that are pretty well built. Both have been viewed as contenders coming into the season. They've gone different ways to get where they are, but these are two legitimate Stanley Cup contenders that are about to clash here. So a little bit different than back in the day, but still there's a lot of history there. And when we were watching the fan reaction to that cesspool of a series online between the Canucks and the Oilers, it's kind of fun seeing a lot of text messages come in and go like, listen, guys, I know we used to hate the Stars, but I can handle losing to the Stars. I can't handle losing to the Vancouver Canucks. So, I don't think it's still there, but let's see what happens in 2-3 games into this series. It might conjure up some of those memories of days gone by.
I'm glad you brought up the cesspool.
Oh my God,
which
man.
is a very nice term. And I listen, I think there's a lot of great people in the nasty chat for the most part, the lock shop especially. So I don't think many of our listeners or viewers were down, but I mean that was embarrassing at times for all parties involved. Like, who knew that there were that many psychos that
I know. It was.
I mean, I should say that nothing surprises me in today's day and age, but I will admit at times. I mean, right off the gate with that kid in that video, off, like that sort of just set the tone for everything that happened outside of the games. And we got a great series from two teams that both played their ass off. I hope there'll be some more mutual respect going forward, but I think that's probably a little too much to ask.
Yeah, I would. It can't be as bad as it was against Vancouver. But even last night on our postgame show, Stars fans were starting to pop up. Somebody this morning on our chat over on the Nielson show was the handle was Jamie Ben, and they were already starting to stir things up a little bit. So I got a lot of time for it. It should be pretty good. As for this series, we got time tomorrow, obviously. We'll get P. Greg on, talk some golf and everything, and we'll get into the games. They have posted, and I know individual player props will be coming here as well. Fired the text out to Jake and Pat from Coolbet a little bit earlier on. We do have top goal scorer in the series and top points in the series right now. Connor McDavid on the point scores in this series. McDavid is plus 100, Draisaitl's plus 200, Bouchard is plus 850, and then you get to Hyman at plus 1150. Right now, it is McDavid, Draisaitl, McDavid, Bouchard, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, top 4 scorers remaining in the playoffs. And on the other side, the top goal scorer in this series, Zach Hyman at plus 325. I think I like Leon Draisaitl plus 425. You can get McDavid at plus 450, and then they mix in Wyatt Johnson, Jason Robertson, 16-1 on Rupe Hintz. We're still waiting to figure out what happens there, and then you get into some of the veteran depth guys, not depth guys, but veteran guys for the Dallas Stars. So if you want to hop on that early, or you can wait till tomorrow and maybe even later this afternoon, and you see all those points in the series props start to pop up.
I know we'll probably dive into this more extensively tomorrow, but what do you think about the East Final between the Rangers and the Florida Panthers? I'm just pulling this up here. Florida won the season series 2-1. They had a game in late December. Florida won 4-3. They had a game that was in Florida. They actually did win at MSG early March 4-2. And then the Rangers beat them 4-3 in late March. I mean, 3 really close games. I have a feeling that this is going to feel a lot like that Rangers-Carolina series where every game is tight. And even if a team gets up or gets down a considerable amount, like in games-wise, that there's still the chance of getting on a bit of a run. I mean, they were so lucky not to end up in Game 7.
Yeah. Well,
Chris Kreider's game today.
I think my favorite bet of this entire thing, and you can get it in a couple of different ways, but it's over 6.5, or just go and bet final game of the series will be 7, and it's plus 190. I mean, I think I'd take the value on plus 190 for this thing to go the distance, as opposed to trying to figure out who's going to win it. And the series price right now is Florida Panthers at minus 152, or the New York Rangers at plus 125, or if you think it's going to go the distance, plus 190 will get you there. Over 5.5, minus 200. So they are expecting it to obviously go 6 or 7. And I'm plus 190 over 6.5 games is probably going to be my play on this series.
Now here's another way to bet that. This is a lock shop brainstorming session.
Okay, I like it.
So what are we better off doing? Do we want to take the over 6.5, so basically plus 190. So let's say if you put $100 on for it to go to 7, it's plus, and you put $100 down, you would win 290. Now I'm looking, they have the exact series result. If you split that bet and put 50 on each side, it's at plus 450. So if you put 50 on it, plus two, okay, you're better off betting the plus 190.
I'm better off betting plus 190.
Yeah, if you put, because it's a home, like Rangers to win 4-3 is plus 450.
Yeah.
Panthers to win is plus 450. So if you split that $100 and just put 50 on each team to win 4-3 at plus 450, it comes out to plus 275. As opposed to if you just put the 100 on game 7, it's plus one. You're plus getting $50 more.
Yeah.
So I was like doing that when you have a couple of options of a way to.
You might find something somewhere along the way.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, like we did that before. I mean, earlier on in the first round, there was a couple of kind of angles there where we ended up getting there was essentially a better number out there if you just made the same bet a little differently, the same amount put forward to come back. So anyways, but I do like that. I mean, 7 games would be great. Love it if both of these series went 7. I wonder if we could get a number on total games in the conference finals.
Of course we can. I mean, we should be able to.
Over, what do you think about over 12 and a half?
Well, that's exactly the number I was going to say. It was in my head. Like the first thing that came to my head was one series goes 7, the other series goes 6. Right, that's what we're looking at there. So
that is exactly. Now let's just see what the number is for this other series. So because it's plus 190, I mean certainly the under 6.5 is minus 263, and then Edmonton and Dallas, we don't have those totals yet.
Not yet. So those numbers aren't up yet.
But I think we might be able to get a pretty decent number on that. Probably in excess of, I would say probably better than 2-1.
Yeah, I would think just over somewhere in between 2 to 250, I would think. But yeah, one of us will fire that text off to Jake and Pete Greggy in our Lock Shoppers chat. And that's the best play. If you had to lean Rangers Panthers, which side are you on?
Well,
I'll just say right now, I think I'd lean Panthers, but it's just the disrespect for the Rangers just continues and continues and continues. And they're a good hockey team.
Exactly. Like I think that the Rangers I think the Panthers are really good, but I think the Rangers are really good too. And I'm sort of like, put it this way. If it comes down to Bob versus Shesterkin, I'll take Shesterkin. And I think that they've got some big time players. I mean, Panarin is awesome. And it's funny seeing all the old Jets. Sounds like Blake Wheeler's got the what a warrior that guy is. I know that people are mixed around him with the way that everything went down here, but man, the guy broke his leg, fought all the way back, and he's now an option for Lav in this series. It'd be cool if he got into a game for sure. And then, of course, former Jet Jack Roslovic now found himself going from the doghouse in Columbus to the top line in New York.
Flying out there too, yeah.
The trade deadline certainly
helped him. Yeah, certainly helped him. All right, a few other things from the weekend. We haven't really got to the weekend. Obviously, with game 1 of that Rangers-Panthers series, we'll give you an official pick for game 1. I think the Rangers are a slight dog at home in game 1 against the Florida Panthers. Isn't it like minus 118, minus 102 or something? I mean,
minus 115 and minus 102.
Yeah, so we'll get into Rangers. Official picks on that tomorrow. We'll give you.
I might bet New York. Bet New York on this. I might actually hit that plus 350 as well. I mean, it just does not make sense. I mean, I think you can make an argument all these teams should be pretty closely bunched in. And for whatever reason, the Rangers were underdogs throughout last series against Carolina. They got it done. They certainly can. They can win this series. They can absolutely win this series. It should be a great one. Hopefully we'll get plenty of games in both. Speaking of plenty of games, and I got to give a shout out to Zulu. The Nuggets.
Oh my God. Huss.
All-time choke job. And this is the worst too. So it's a long weekend. I've got a friend that's got is having a party. We got the barbecue going and there's hot tub. And so we're outside. And I'm inside watching some of the game. And I'm like, oh, this is great. They're up by 20. And then sort of get out at halftime and then start having something to eat and a couple beers. And I mean, I had mentally already moved on to the next round. And then I pull up my phone and I'm like, what the hell? It's tied? And then that is just so disappointing. Our futures blew up in our face. And for Denver, that was I think they win the NBA championship if they win that series. Now, in Boston, how fortunate are they? Do you think the T-Wolves can win the whole thing?
I think with their height and their defensive abilities, yeah, I do. I mean, nothing against the Pacers and Celtics, which begins tonight. It was my Coolbet hotline of the day today. Halliburton over 3.5 threes in that game one tonight. But Dallas, Minnesota is going to be an absolutely phenomenal series. And I think the bigs defensively for the Timberwolves are going to cause a bit of an issue here. There's what they say at Game 7 is it was breaking down. The Timberwolves held the Nuggets under 100 points 5 times this season. Nobody else came close to holding the Nuggets under 100 points 5 times. That's nuts. I know the Lakers actually played pretty good defense against the Nuggets. I thought they played really well defensively against the Nuggets. Still couldn't really hold them under for more than one of those games, I think. The Timberwolves, they just defend differently. The fact that, I thought for sure after the Nugs got pumped by 45 in Game 6, I was like, well, they respond and return the favor at home in Game 7. Then they're up by 20, and it's trending in that exact direction. And then the Timberwolves just locked it down defensively, man. They used all the fouls that they had to give. Gobert ended up fouling out. Karl Anthony Towns is at 5 late. Naz Reid came in and made some huge plays defensively and Jokic down the stretch. Now, maybe because Dallas is more driven by Luka and Kyrie, they can avoid having to get inside against those bigs and kind of make them less useful than they were against a team that you had to shut down a 7-footer. But that's just going to be an amazing series. I cannot wait, man. That's every game appointment tuning for me.
My guy Zulu in the chat. Huss, terrible. I go and do yard work. I come back just devastated. You hear that? And V Power, interesting. I never thought of this. Oh, man. Oilers will have to play on basketball ice again. I guess the better the ice, the better for Edmonton, for a team that has the wheels that they do, particularly at the high
it's
end.
Funny because the Kings series, they had the basketball ice. And then we had Derek Van Diest on from NHL.com yesterday. He was out in Vancouver. He said everybody he talks to in Vancouver says that the Canucks have the worst ice in the entire league. And now we'll see what ends up happening with Dallas and the Mavs. The Mavs and Stars both playing here at the same time too. So, so that series should be absolutely outstanding. But yeah, I felt for you when I saw they were up 20. Same type of thing. I saw they were up 20 and we had other stuff going on and I was just like, whatever. Nuggets are going to roll here in Game 7. And then I saw when the Timberwolves were down 5 and I was like, man, I got to check back into this thing. And then I wrote it out the rest of the way. And the Nuggets had a couple of shots to cut it to within 4. And they just didn't knock them down like they did in other series over the last little while, right? So yeah, that was crazy. Hey, how about Xander? Zach,
hey, bud.
Zach comes sitting here setting it up today, and he goes, just so you know, when you texted the guys your Xander pick, they laughed at you. They said, I can't believe Dusty's going back to Xander again. And I was just like, me neither. But I felt like he's been so close so many times. If you look at all the stats, he's behind Scotty Scheffler. He's one of the top 2 or 3 golfers in the entire world. And I know he usually just comes up a little bit light in these spots. But my goodness, that was the exact opposite on Sunday, considering everybody knocking on the door trying to track him down.
It was incredible. He went out and shot a brilliant round, and he needed every single one of those birdies. The most disappointing guy on Sunday was definitely Morikawa. He just could not drop a putt. And we saw other guys that were in there. Finau was like that for rounds 2 and 3. He was just striping the ball. He's putting it to 12 feet, 13 feet, 6 feet. They weren't going in for him. Rory got hot for a little bit, and then fell off. And the one guy that was just nails consistently throughout the entire week was Xander Schauffele. Huge props for Bryson. You know what? It was easy and it was popular to hate Bryson, and there was a lot of reasons that a lot of people couldn't stand him for a long time. Bryson has done a lot to... He's the one guy that I think's actually really benefited from the move to live. Both with what he's able to do, like on YouTube and social media. But he was amazing. He was amazing. He was exciting. He was fist pumping. He had a lot of energy. And people got behind him. I mean, if this was a year ago, I think there was a lot more heat for the live guys. And I just get a crack. I mean, he's wearing his Crushers hat and Crushers shirt. I heard some guy, he did a shot, and some guy just goes, "Let's go, Crushers." It's like, so funny. But listen, he was right there. The overall, when you look at that, the final bit, and how can we forget about Vic? I mean, Vic was right there, and I know it says minus 18. I mean, he had a nothing bogey at the end once he knew that he didn't made the first putt to get him to 20. It was whatever. But Victor, he had just gotten back with his old swing coach like a couple days before the event, and something dialed it in. But I mean, for Xander to go 62, 68, 68, and then shoot a 65 and needed every single one of those shots. Listen, well deserved. You had to think that he was going to do it at some point. But yeah, I mean, we were surprised that you were going back to Xander because of the heartache and pain that he had delivered. I mean, he hadn't won basically in 2 years.
I know.
I mean, that's the crazy thing. Like, we're not talking a major, anything. But he was always there. I mean, he's cashing checks.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But this is going to change a lot of the narrative around him. And you do wonder whether this sort of opens up the door, frees him, and, he's winning a whole bunch, because it was almost incredible. And this speaks to, why that was such a good play for you. Even in a field like this, when you play that well at that level and come so close so often, at some point you're going to probably break through. Now, I'm not sure a lot of people anticipated the world number one getting thrown in jail before the second round. And he sort of fell apart on Saturday.
He did fire out a pretty good round after being in jail, though.
He came out and shot a 66 that day.
I know.
It seemed like it kind of really affected him the next day. Like, if you remember, he teed off. I think he got an early birdie, and then he went double, bogey. So he was 4 over 3 shots, and that completely changed the leaderboard, and he didn't really recover. But, I mean, the guy goes out and shoots 65 on Sunday. I mean, he's truly incredible. And by the way, I know that the no laying up guys had reported that, the charges were going to be dropped. That's not true.
I know. I saw that today.
They are not dropping the charges. He's going to be, I guess they've moved the arraignment to June. But that's not great for Scotty to have to be worrying about this and dealing with this. Although, hey, you know what? If you break the law, you got to pay the price. We still really don't know the actual details of everything that happened. It seems to be pretty murky. Although Scotty, I think, is a guy that's going to get the benefit of the doubt from most rational people. Does not seem like a raging psycho that would knowingly drive a car with a policeman holding on to it. But I wonder how that kind of affects him going the rest of the way. Like, he's now all of a sudden got a lot on the go. New kid at home.
Court
charges.
issues.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Charges.
So weird. It hasn't impacted his number. Charles Schwab challenge this week. Scotty Scheffler plus 275 to win the thing. Swear to God. Plus 275. And we'll get into this tomorrow with P. Greggy, obviously. But Scotty Scheffler plus 275. Morikawa's 12-1. Homa and Spieth are 20-1. And then Tony Finau's 28-1. After that, the field kind of falls off a little bit. Those are the big boys who would be in attendance. Then you get your Siwoo Kims, Minwoo Lees, Sanjay M, a bunch of those guys. But Finau, Spieth, Homa, Morikawa, and Scotty Scheffler at plus 275. For him to finish top 5 is only minus 161. So, yeah.
I think that's the shortest number I've ever
Has
seen
to
in a
be.
golf tournament. Period. Ever.
Has to be. Like
we haven't even seen something in the threes. Plus 275. Again, way too short of a number to actually bet. So we'll be looking elsewhere. Well, we got, I guess, tomorrow. Today's Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. Yeah, tomorrow. We'll get into it.
Lock these in tonight.
We'll get into it tomorrow. So, yeah, dive into those tonight. We'll give you those picks tomorrow. You did mention the NBA playoffs quickly there, Huss. Those two series numbers are also up right now. The Celtics in game one, which goes tonight, minus 476 favorites. The series winner, I mean, the Celtics had an amazing, amazing regular season for sure. The Pacers right now to win this series are plus 610. Like huge dogs against the Celtics. Celtics are minus 1,000 to win it. You'll obviously get some different numbers on the other side with the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. Game one of that series goes tomorrow. The T-Wolves at home, minus 182 favorites over there. The series number right now, Minnesota, very similar to the game one line. Timberwolves minus 179 against the Mavericks in that series as well. Any value anywhere on the board there for you, Huss?
Well, just looking at this, and by the way, speaking of defense, the Knicks did not play any. They gave up 70 at MSG in the first half
of a game seven. How does that happen, man? My God.
Very disappointing for them. But credit to Indiana. Like over 5.5 games is plus money, is plus 116 in this. Like, I think the thought is that the Celtics win this in 4 or 5. It's minus 154 on the under. Like, I think that I think the Pacers deserve a little more credit, frankly, than they're getting.
Well, and the Celtics are going to go full Celtic for one game. You know, there's going to be that one game where you're like, oh, look, classic Celtics. So that's one. So are the Pacers good enough to win another one, I guess, is really the question.
See, what is it? It's plus 300 Celtics sweep, plus 165 Boston 4-1. They certainly think that it's going to be Celtics in 5. And then you can get Celtics in 6 at plus 390 or Celtics 4-3 is plus 470. I would love the Pacers to make this a series. I'm not sure that they will. If anything, I'll go on that over 5.5 with plus money and just hope that they can win a couple games. But I think I'll probably lock more into the individual games with the lines. I mean, coming off that big win against the Knicks, Pacers getting 10.5 tonight. I think I can get my head around them trying to keep that momentum going in and not losing by double digits.
Yeah, if there was a play tonight, I think I'd probably ride with the Pacers plus 10.5. That's a pretty big number for any conference final. So, I'd probably go with you there. Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up today, Huss. You guys full-blown Bombers preseason discussion after what happened against the Riders or what?
Yeah, we'll dig into that. I mean, no one really saw the game, right? Because it wasn't on TV.
CFL Plus.
You got a chance to spend the day with your family as opposed to go to Regina for the first preseason game of the year. But yeah, we are. Jeff Hamilton's going to jump on. We'll hit a bunch of the Bomber storylines. Brandon Rowicki will come on. We'll talk a little bit more about the pros and cons for some Jets coaching candidates, as well as some other off-season talk about the hockey team. Gold Eyes home openers tonight. We'll touch on that. And then we will have you jump on and
that's right.
Give the folks in Winnipeg a little bit of an idea about the clench and clinch. God, I love that.
I didn't come up with it. I saw it last night online. I was like, that's good, actually. That's good. Actually, you know what it was? We were saying, I know where I saw it. Yesterday, prior to Game 7, we're like, hey, let's come up with another name for do or die. Right? Everybody's always like, do or die, do or die. And somebody's like, clench and clinch. I was like, yes, I don't mind that. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Never has that been more appropriate than the last 5 minutes of the game yesterday. So yeah, we're firing it up in about 10 minutes over on the WST channel. So pop by after the fellas are done at EST, and Dusty will come on at about 1:30 Edmonton time if you want more of the two of us kind of talking Oilers Canucks and looking ahead to the series against the Stars.
Looking forward to it, buddy. Talk to you in a little bit.
Right on.
There you go. That is Huss from Winnipeg Sports Talk. Like he said, I'm going to hop on that show at 1:30 Edmonton time today after we finish with Two Guys and a Goalie, which is coming up, presented by GS Construction with myself, Cass, and Gager. Lots to get to. We'll get into your bigger and hotter headlines for Big Mama's and Papa's Pizzeria, and we'll get into Hire It or Fire It for GS Construction as well. Let's take a look at some Coolbet exclusives before we wrap here today. Also, got to do this right now. Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. VIP table, Friday night. Shane Gillis, Andrew Schultz will be there at the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. We've teamed up with Alley Cat. Alley Cat is the exclusive beer sponsor of the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival, and they are taking the #1 selling craft beer in Alberta from Sobeys and Safeway Liquor, the 6 o'clocker lager, and it will be available at the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. We have a VIP table for the Friday night show. Text in right now, money, text money to 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Text money to 780-218-9999. One of you will get drawn. You will go into that grand prize draw to win the VIP table to the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival, which is coming up this summer right here in Edmonton. Huge lineup. People who are red hot right now in Gillis and Schultz. Saturday night, fresh off of the Tom Brady roast, you'll get a dose of Kevin Hart, and then Bert Kreischer and Whitney Cummings on the Sunday at the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. So for more on that, hop online, check it out. Great Outdoors Comedy Festival is where you can find more information on that. But text in money right now to 780-218-9999, because that's what we like to help you with on the Lock Shop, getting some profits from Coolbet. Let's see, what do we have here? Got some exclusives on the Jays currently available. The only exclusives up right now at Coolbet.com. Babe, big in the city. That's funny. Good work, boys. That's a good one. Davis Schneider to record 2+ total bases, 1 run scored, plus 230. Have a day, Yusei. Have a day, Yusei Kikuchi to record 6+ strikeouts. Jays to win by 2 or more, plus 250. Hit parade, Vladdy, Bobo Bichette, Danny Jansen, and Dalton Varsho, all to have at least 1 hit today, 4-1. And then Vladdy, home run, Jays win, plus 650. Those are available over at Coolbet.com. If you have not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet.com, go to Coolbet.com, click on sign up. When it asks for a bonus code, enter LOCKSHOP, all one word. You'll get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to 200 smackaroos, and you can hop on in and join us for the NHL playoffs as we continue along with the conference finals. How beautiful is this? Looking at it right now. Final 4 teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs: Florida Panthers, New York Rangers, Dallas Stars, and your Edmonton Oilers. Not too shabby. Can they pull off what some would deem an upset against the Dallas Stars? I personally see it as a little bit more of a coin flip. But we'll see where the value ends up by the time we drop the puck. Huss just texted me after he got off. He goes, I assume you saw this. And it is the notice from A&W that says the Whistle Dog is back again. Of course I saw it. I've got 2 reserved for me as soon as I'm done on Huss's show at 1:30 today. Straight to A&W. Whistle Dogs for the family, straight home. That's not true, actually. I have to go to Wayne's today and pick up some cards because I'm going to do a break on Wednesday night. If you're a Crack Pack member, be watching. Teaser video coming up later today for a Wednesday night break before the series begins. And swinging by Italian Center Shop because we're picking up more of those chicken cutlets to dive into tomorrow. That's good. So busy afternoon. I like that. Before you leave, if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, please do. Hit sub and hey, hammer the thumbs up. I thought we're cruising along. Pretty good number today over on YouTube. Obviously on the stream, seeing really good numbers today as well on TuneIn and iHeart. So if you're listening online, tell your friends how easy it is to consume our content. We think they would like it too. A little something for everyone as we work our way through the day here every single day on Edmonton Sports Talk. 2 Guys and a Goalie coming up, presented by GS Construction. Myself, Joaquin Gage, Matt Cassian, breaking down Game 7. The Oilers get past the Vancouver Canucks. We'll get into your bigger and hotter headlines and hire it or fire it as well. Any of your questions, any of your comments, send them to 780-218-9999. If you're watching over on YouTube, turn on autoplay. take you right on over here to Two Guys and a Goal. I see some of the guys already getting locked up, ready to go. They're fired up to get into this one today for sure. That is going to do it for the Lock Shop today. Thank you very much for joining us. Good luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow on the Lock Shop.